All right, as everybody's filtering in, we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, my name is Mike Chuma. I'm the Vice President of Product Strategy for Ideas. One of the things that we wanted to bring in today is talk to you about the future of analytics and how it is fueled by specialized data. And so we've invited three of the global experts in some of those data areas, specifically reputation data, travel intent, and market intelligence. When we look at how this data is impacting the travel industry, specifically around automated pricing and guest experience, also looking at how that impacts marketing ROI, really want to start narrowing down to some of those strategies and some of those questions. So brought some of my friends here. Do want to introduce Clay Jackson. Clay is president of nSight. As well, I have Shayne Paddock. He is CIO of Guest Management Solutions for TravelClick. And then Maarten Plesman, Vice President of EMEA for Revinate. So what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of information about their company, and then we'll walk into some question and answer sessions from myself, and then, if available, we can take some questions from the audience. All right, so Clay, why don't you tell us about nSight?
Yeah, thank you guys for letting me be here today to speak to you. Clay Jackson with nSight Travel Intelligence. So at the heart of our business, we are a data company. We pull and compile data sets from over 5,000 booking sites. So OTAs, third-party channel. You can think of the third party and all the places where hotels are distributing their inventory. Kind of the way to understand what we do is that we've figured out a way to see not only the search and booking behavior happening on those channels, but also the audience level data occurring on those channels across the web. And so we get about 150 million data points a day of near real-time forward-looking demand that we then tie back to both revenue management and marketing strategies. For revenue management, it's a proxy for unconstrained demand. And then on the marketing side, we're basically able to say, show a hotel who to target and where to target by arrival period. So once again, tying marketing strategies back to revenue management strategies. We work with Ideas. Just launched a new product called nSight for Ideas, where we're trying to marry marketing strategies actually into their revenue management system. So for any Ideas clients, it's out there, and take a look at it.
Great. Shayne, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure, I'm Shayne Paddock. I'm the CIO of the Guest Management Solutions side. That's the CRM and marketing automation wing of TravelClick. But TravelClick offers a variety of products, whether it's Demand 360 in terms of its business intelligence products. It sells a booking engine, an iHotelier, a suite of digital media products, and then us on the CRM side. We serve over 38,000 hotels in various capacities, see millions and millions of records of data fly through our servers every day. The key to all our product stacks is tying them all together for a unified solution, and data is really at the core of what we do. We spend a lot of time making connections into various systems, because at the end of the day, the data is going to tell the story.
Good. Thank you. And Maarten?
Yeah, thank you. So this slide, if it's coming up, yeah, this represents what we consider the biggest problem in hospitality today, which really is the fact that your costs that you pay to OTAs are rising about twice as fast as your revenues. Now, there's some regional variances, but typically this is what you see. We try to help hotels get out of that conundrum, really by making sure they take back the ownership of their guest relationship. So if you think about your guest interactions with your brand, with your hotel, you want to make sure that that's super professional. There's a digital guest journey that you want to bring them on, and we help you to execute on that. So that includes reputation, how are you represented online in different review sites. It includes your post-stay survey communication, but it also includes all of your marketing. So your welcome email, your pre-arrival email, your during stay emails, and your promotions and campaigns. So ultimately what we do is make it very simple for hotels to make sure that you build that direct relationship with your guest.
Great, thank you. So, some of the things that we're starting to see is, hoteliers have made plenty of efforts to get to a point where they can drive more direct business. And Maarten, we'll start off with you in this question, but since you wandered into that with your OTA commissions, but some of the properties, and they've really been trying to drive those direct bookings. So, as the travel industry continues to evolve, what are you seeing as the leading trends in data and analytics to help those hotels drive that more profitable business to their bottom line?
I think it's a combination of three different things, actually. The first is you got to look at data that's available to you now. So if you look at reputation data, for example, you need to make sure that your hotel is well visible and well represented so that you have a satisfaction that people like, that you are findable, that people can find you when they're searching. 90% of all travel starts with a search on Google. If you're not there, if you're not highly visible, then people are not going to find you. So that's number one. The second piece of data is really about what do you know about your own business? Do you understand where your travelers are coming from? Do you understand how many guest relationships you've built up? Do you know how many profiles are in your database? And do you know how to reach them? And then third is the more advanced type data, which is things that these companies do as well. Collection from third-party, travel intent, source markets, changes, and basically peak demand. So you can assign that to your revenue management team and actually make smart decisions. So what you really see is three sources of data, and it's getting more complex. There's probably another couple sources that are coming up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Shayne, do you have any perspective in terms of some of that data and what are some of the keys to ensuring that the hotels can drive direct to bottom line and direct bookings?
Yeah, it's really about controlling your guest. OTAs are spending billions of dollars to steal your guests, and there's a lot of easy tools out there to use that. But it's using data to simplify it for the hoteliers and to really get down. Simple loyalty programs doesn't have to be complex, points-based, never going to make it to 1 million miles, but just recognizing guests on property for driving direct bookings, recognizing that they come back for the third time instead of, hey, have you stayed with us before? Knowing who they are before they walk in the room. It starts with I've never walked into a new customer engagement yet where their data's been clean. And bad data makes bad decisions. I was thinking about this flying over here. It's like, I'm really hoping the pilot has good, accurate information, because if he doesn't, he's going to run into another plane. And I'm really hoping my doctor has accurate information when he gets here. But the hospitality space seems to be okay with just 5 different profiles for Clay in the PMS, and not really knowing that that's one person and he's stayed 5 times, and how much he's valued to that chain versus a one and done. And those things are pretty simple to do, but you just have to tackle that one time. I like to preach, make it simple, start with something really small and build on it. Otherwise you'll get overwhelmed by it.
Clay, do you have any perspective?
I generally look at this as a question of commission versus cost per acquisition. So when Booking.com goes out and spends $3.5 billion to steal the hotel's customers and then sells it back to the hotel on a commission basis, they're running a cost per acquisition model with Google to buy AdWords and then making their money on the spread for the commission that they sell back. What they don't have is the information from the hotel about how important, how valuable those customers are to that property on any given day. Well, the more that hotels take advantage of technology to actually get within those data sets, they can't compete every day all the time with Booking, but you can find the days to win business when it's most profitable for you and when it matters. And the days that you're taking advantage of that, you're taking more business and taking it to the bottom line.
That's great. Continuing on to that, so Clay, can you give us an idea of really what sort of data or solutions are available to help the hotels drive down that loyalty and path and differentiate themselves from their competition, and also continue to drive that guest experience? From your perspective, what types of data and solutions are out there that you're looking for?
So I'll let kind of Revinate and some of these guys talk about the pure loyalty. We don't actually work in loyalty, but we work in transient. And if I had to take a poll of this crowd, I would say every single person here has probably 5 or 10 different loyalty programs. Well, you may only have status on one of those, but you're checking all of them, you're shopping on all of them. Well, the question then becomes, what is a hotel doing with PII information that it has on its customers? Well, PII is private confidential information. Basically, we know who you are. Well, if you've got a ton of customers that you have some basic individual personalized information on, how are you using that across multi-channel marketing for programmatic ad buys? How are you using it in other different ways to go after not necessarily that high repeat loyal customer, but all of the customers that you have information on, but you're not currently using or maximizing the quality of that data? So that really comes down to PII and what I would say would be the long tail of the loyalty program, and that more mirrors transient marketing, and what you're doing is transient marketing strategies.
Yeah. Maarten, do you have anything to add? The same question?
Yeah, I think when we look at loyalty, we have a different point of view in a way. We think that loyalty used to be this thing that you built up over time, but actually real loyalty is only based on the last visit to your hotel. So a guest looks at this, they see your reputation on TripAdvisor and on Google and on Booking.com, and they say, okay, great reviews, some good comments, I'm going to go there and stay with you. When they arrive, they either recognize the good service and the things that they read online, or they don't. And when they leave, they're happy or they're not. And so we see loyalty has become a lot more transactional, based on the last interaction. And people are thinking, hey, the next hotel is just as much of an option as your hotel. So you really got to think about how you treat that guest and how you pull them in to your experience. So your question was also to do with differentiation. And we actually think that we all got into the hotel industry because we wanted to be hoteliers. We wanted to serve guests. And so I think the best differentiation is by looking at your own property, looking at your own team, making sure everybody has that personal touch, and then to also communicate that personal touch in all of your interactions. So have a really nice looking pre-arrival email. Have a very simple and basic welcome email with instructions on what there is to do in the hotel. Have a very easy to consume during stay email. So you have multiple touch points in which you reiterate and you repeat what makes your hotel unique and what they can actually experience in your hotel. That's, for us, the basic point on where to start.
Right. You know, what I like about that is that it gives you the opportunity to be, you know, we like to say predictive, but really it's starting really a touch point, a customer interaction life cycle that can allow you to become, have a better profile on that customer using PII data, using the touch points that you have within the stay. But everybody wants to get to a point to where they understand that predictive demand, right? So if we're looking at, let's say for example, predictive demand intelligence, you know, how is that changing the way that hotels manage their business? And I'd like to start off with Shayne from TravelClick.
Yeah, so our demand data is forward-looking data. It's showing how you're doing in the future as opposed to the past. And it's not just showing your hotel, but it's showing all your comp sets as well. So think about it, it's kind of that crystal ball that you wish you had. And should I take a group? Should I take a group? Should I be really aggressive in the group pricing? Or since I know all my other comp sets are full up, that they're not going to be able to take it, I can get those yields up there. It's making decisions based on the data that you're seeing in real time. You're seeing what's down the line and changing things. We're also on the GMS side. We'll take all of that PII data. We'll take lookalike data modeling and figure out how much a guest is going to be worth lifetime to the hotel. Gone are the days of just who are my best guests, the people that spent the most money. You really want to be looking like what the airlines are doing and looking who's going to spend the next million with you and not who spent the last million with you. A new business graduate, 26 years old, who's got a lifetime of business traveler is so valuable compared to somebody who's been with you for 20 years. You give them a couple free upgrades right now, you've won their loyalty forever, and that's just really important to do. It's a different way to look at it. Too many times hoteliers look at the past to try to predict the future, but you really need to be forward thinking in what you're doing.
Yeah, Clay, that sounds like a good transition into nSight in terms of the travel intent. So do you have a perspective on this topic?
Yeah, like the second that you said crystal ball, I was like, yeah, we play in that space too. You know, some of the best tools in the industry are all based on historical data, or primarily based on historical data. Well, this year's customer, the customer who's coming in the next month, in the next couple of months, is arguably different than last year's customer. Well, the hoteliers that are actually looking into the future, that are using those tools to see, what those travelers are that are coming, the level of demand in the market, how they're doing against their competitors, are the ones that are going to win business, peak their rate, and outperform the market. And it's really what it comes down to. These are the tools of our industry now, and this is kind of where we're going as an industry into the future.
Yeah, but the tools of the industry produce an insane amount of data. There's so much data that's available. One of the things that always comes back for me and my team is, how do we handle that amount of data? How do you prioritize that data? How do you ensure that you're taking the right pieces of data to build that into your revenue and revenue optimization strategy? I'm curious. I'd love to hear from some outsiders' perspectives outside of ideas in the revenue management space. We love to hear how you're consulting on prioritizing that data to ensure that you're able to make it useful and get to that optimization strategy. Maarten, any tips for us?
Is this on? Yeah. So a couple of things. Through our experience, we've really learned that it depends on the type of hotel you work in.
Yeah.
So large chains and brands have spending power and capabilities that small brands and independent hotels just don't have. So leaving apart the large brands for a moment, what we see with the mid-market and independent hotels, they love it when we help them out. So I could tell you that the solution does everything for you, but in the end, hoteliers want to be involved. They want to understand what's going on. So what we do with Reputation, for example, we help them. Here's some best practices on how to respond to positive reviews. Here's some best practices how to respond to negative reviews. Basics like that. When it comes to marketing, we say, hey, look, in these other hotels, we see that pre-arrival emails and welcome emails have open rates of 60%. So if you want to make sure that people are getting your message, send those first. Don't start off with a campaign with 5% discount and send that to your whole database, because people might get ticked off. Yeah. Build that relationship first. Send information that's useful and relevant. So we sit down with our clients, we help them through those. And that's really what I see in terms of what hotels want. They want to be helped because it's complex out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that as well, especially when you start hitting that guest database and you start layering in the communications. You can get email fatigue and you can get communication fatigue very quickly. So it's getting to a point where you can very highly target that message. Shayne, would you have any perspective?
Yeah, we recognize that hoteliers have to run hotels.
Yes.
And they're not hiring the PhD students that we hire to analyze big data. And they shouldn't be. It's up to us as a community to be providing those insights for them and to make it useful in a really simplified way and not to overwhelm people. Because I find the worst thing you can do is just overwhelm somebody with data and they get paralysis by analysis and they don't know where to start. So make it simple, phased approach. It's the same approach I take to software development. It's kind of like how we're working with ideas, and we provide that demand 360 data, and then they can boil it into something that's pretty simple into the revenue management side, and the hotels just know that it's being taken care of. There's enough going on at a hotel, especially from an independent hotelier. They're never going to get to everything they want to get done today. It's really up to us to collaborate and share our data and to be able to use it in useful ways so that hotels can do their job of running the hotel, and then we can do our job as being their partners and to be able to provide insights and be able to help them and to be that extension of the hotel.
Mm-hmm. Glad you have perspective?
Yeah. To anyone who's a hotel in the room, look for partners that are simplifying problems for you. That's something that, so many times one of the biggest learnings is we can sell you new reports, we can sell you complexity, we can show you how complex things can be. But at the end of the day, we're competing for your time and we're competing for what you're going to be able to do with the data. So the best solutions are oftentimes the ones that are going to be the simple solutions with the simple actions that are going to drive immediate value. And and that's, to Shayne's point, the more that we collaborate with data sets, the more that we tie into the systems, we can take that, simplify that action, and deliver better solutions that help your business and help your bottom line.
And you all are giving me these fantastic transitions into some of the topics that we wanted to cover. You know, Clay and Shayne, one of the things that you talked about is you have keywords such as simple, you have seamless, you have you have large amounts of data, especially now we have a larger amount of solution providers, as we can see. I mean, ITB has gotten enormous. But with that comes the need for seamless integration, making things work well together. So as we're looking at all these capabilities that are coming out to provide newfound insight, newfound actions, newfound decisions, it really comes down to what do we see as the next major innovation, or what do we see as the future of hotel technology, and what should that be in the industry set? Do you give me a little bit of your vision casting? We'll start with Clay.
The second that a revenue manager can look at a pattern for a future day and click an ad buy that exploits the difference between a commission and a pay-per-click bid, you have effectively made revenue management replace marketing and significantly improve the hotel business. That requires tying into programmatic buys, DMP buys, and tying into the systems. We are probably, some of the major brands are clipping at the heels of some of that, beginning to think like that. But that's going to be probably 2 years before the big brands begin to get it, and 5 years, probably 7 years out before some of the small independents, some of that technology kind of boils down to some of the smaller independents. But that to me is probably the biggest shift of that convergence between revenue management and marketing that's going to actually make a significant improvement to hotel operations.
Great.
I see artificial intelligence becoming bigger and bigger in this space. It's kind of like the stock market. The computers make a lot of decisions now, and it takes a lot of time to trust that. And hoteliers are generally sometimes a little adverse to, they want to see an open box, but being able to trust that, but being able to do it in a way that's suitable for hospitality. You see a lot of robots walking around here, and I don't really necessarily want to check into a hotel based on a robot, but I do want to maybe get a quick answer off my mobile device. How late's the pool open to? I don't really need a human to do that kind of thing. And just boiling again, like, it's a complicated subject, but again, making it simple for the guest so that a guest has a better experience because of it, but not in a really robotic way, just in a way that it still suits the hospitality industry, where a guest is feeling welcomed into the hotel. And yeah, I think that's important. Like, we're all data nerds up here, but like, you got to remember, like, it's a human business, and not to lose that human touch.
Maarten?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because I do think a lot of new technology is going to come up on the horizon. We see chatbots and other things. But actually where I think the biggest change will probably be is that it's also overwhelming as an hotelier that I think there will also be kind of a retraction, a little bit back to basics. So what I mean by that is I think hoteliers should look at, okay, what's actually in my history? What are the people that stay here? What's in my database? What are the type of segments that I'm good at? So if you want to be successful, you need to probably look at what's my identity? Who do I think will want to stay here? How do I get in touch with those people? And how do I make sure that I do only that part better than the OTAs and other people? Now, that's when you can utilize AI and other technologies and data to get ahead, but you really got to choose your battles. You got to simplify things, and you got to choose, like, hey, why am I even in this business? What do I think I'm good at? Who do I want to serve? And then only execute on that. Otherwise, it's just too overwhelming. You can't actually make choices.
Yeah, it's a great perspective for all three of you. I think it's very similar to what we're seeing. We're seeing a very, very strong and quick convergence between sales and marketing and revenue management. Obviously within the hotels, the hoteliers are operators, and you want to be able to get down to understanding how to make those decisions very quickly. But inside the hotel and across P&Ls, you're seeing a converging, and the goals may not be the same yet, but you're seeing a very, very strong convergence between those two. So that's great insight. I think one of the things that I liked about what you said, Shayne, that was so nice is that you said AI, right? But you said it's not necessarily robots, but it's not man versus machine, it's man with the machines. To be able to get to your point, Maarten, of simplifying and owning your identity and understanding who you need to talk to and what tool sets you need to simplify down to be able to make the best decisions appropriate. And you can really leverage automated decision-making solutions, automated intelligence, and really leverage the man with machine, because that's going to be able to get you down to what the most important thing is as a hotel operator, is making sure that your guest experience hits the number on the head, hits the guest nail on the head, and ensure that they feel like you're talking to them in a one-to-one experience. And that starts with how you market, how you plan your pricing, how you look at the automated decisions that you're making, and how you simplify the operations of the hotel to ensure that your guest experience is of utmost importance. I think we've got a couple more minutes, about 4 minutes for questions. So, before we go into audience questions, thank you very much for joining us and giving us your insights. I think it's really nice to see a cross-section of experts on a global scale and hearing what you're seeing as the future. But are there any questions from the audience that that you'd like to know, burning desires? Yes.
Hello. Okay. Hi. Thank you. This has been very interesting. I have a question about chatbots. How much do you think they'll actually be able to replace customer agents and impact customer satisfaction?
We've got a product on the market now, and with AI, we expect to probably reduce about 75% of the chatter. In hospitality, you can really boil it down to like a lot of common questions that can really be easily answered. But you want to be really careful, like I said, like you don't want to have a robotic response that's wrong, because then you lose the human touch. But if I can parse out, when does the pool close pretty easily, why not send that message back within milliseconds as opposed to waiting for a couple minutes for somebody to respond? But I think you just need to be really careful, and you want to be talking to the guest wants to know they're talking to a human at the end when they want a human response, because guests will ask you complicated things, and that's not there yet for a lot of properties.
To also pick up on that, one of the things that we kind of keep touching on and talking about is effectively how machine learning is impacting the hotel industry. And so it's how are we taking the data of customer behavior and tying that back to the relationship to the customer. And that's basically going to be the story of the next 4, 5, 10 years, where we've been talking about big data for the past 5. We'll be talking about machine learning and how it's being used in hotel business for the next 5.
Yeah, so I actually have used a messaging app in one of the hotels I stayed at. I thought it was a wonderful thing. I suspect it was probably not a bot because it was a year and a half ago, but it could have been. I think there's a lot of potential. There are some risks as well. The first risk is I think what you said, Shayne, which is what if you get it wrong? What if it's not in context? What if an underage person is asking when the bar is open? Like, what do you do in kind of odd cases? But then secondly, I think there's a much larger issue, which is how are you equipping your hotel to actually deal with it? So if you install a messaging app in your hotel, you also need to make sure that it's manned 24/7, that people who are available, and that it's run well for the customer. And that's not always the case. So it's not always easy to actually execute on that. The last thing is, how does the guest actually get it in their hands? Right? Do they need to download an app of the hotel? Do they need to download a special messaging app, or can they just use their own WhatsApp and text message? I think there's a lot of differences in how you make it easy and how you make sure that once you promise something that you can actually deliver on it, which goes back to the basics of hospitality anyway.
Yeah. It's very similar to if you have a loyalty program, in-room Alexa or some sort of voice-activated messaging service, and tying that back to if the guest has a loyalty program and understanding them, flipping that on and continuing to drive some of the personalization that goes with that. So I want to say thank you to the panelists. We are out of time, but again, thank you all for attending, and gentlemen, I greatly appreciate your time.